And then it was time for Toronto to drown in the sweet sorrow of the clash at Dreamhead!
That guy on bass?
Oh, yeah?
That's Todd.
I know! Oh, yeah?
You know?
Oh, yeah!
Oh, no.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the GTAS podcast. Today is Saturday, July 7th, 2018.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Bob Brusen, and I'm joined back from his vacation, the always demonetized Adam Miller.
Wow. I always have no money.
Yeah, well, yeah, you always have no money. You were just on vacation. Danko filled in for you last week, so how was that?
I had a really good time. Maryland inland smells kind of like a cat box.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I go to Ocean City, Maryland, which is where I'm going.
Yeah, by the ocean.
Next week.
By the ocean didn't smell like a cat box. Like it smelled like the ocean smells.
Salt.
Yeah, like salt and like
Mystery.
sea brine and mystery crustaceans. Yeah. So yeah, we had a pretty good time.
You didn't have a chance to listen to, you mentioned it before we started, you didn't get a chance to listen to Danko being on the show.
No.
We went on for a while. We did about 2 hours worth of, well, it wasn't really of content. It was a lot of me and Danko catching up because I haven't seen him since, I haven't seen Danko since he came on as a guest for our show, like back on like episode like 3 or 5. He was early. And this is in the reboot GTAS era. Obviously, Danko would come on all the time, but he came right after work and changed, and I had a really fun time. It was a really fun show. You got shit on a lot during that podcast from both of us. We were just like, oh geez, here's all the stuff that we like about Adam, and here's all the stuff that Adam drives us up a wall about. So when you watch that, don't be surprised.
Did you mention the fucking animals? I don't like talking animals.
I think we did. I think we mentioned that you don't like the talking animals because we talked about the closing of Disney Toon Studios, and we mentioned that Adam is just odd about his opinion when it comes to certain things, and one of them's the talking animals, and he's just like, yeah, the talking animals thing is weird, Danko was mentioning.
I don't fucking like them.
Yeah, but I was talking to your wife, and she said that you won't watch Pixar movies because they all have the same plot.
Yeah, they all have very similar plots.
I don't believe that at all.
No,
how many Pixar movies have you actually seen?
Toy Story, Bug's Life, Monsters Incorporated, Toy Story 2. I saw another one. I saw WALL-E.
Okay.
I think like WALL-E and Up was around the time that they started doing a little bit of variation in their plots.
Yeah, they were right after each other.
And then I don't think I saw anything after.
I don't honestly understand the logic between those are the ones you've seen, and I don't think those are similar at all.
Well, they're like really. I guess I'm like grasping at straws here. But
you really
it's kind
are.
of vague, but like almost every movie has a plot about them getting lost or them being detached from their society. Like in Bug's Life, they're lost from the ant colony. In Toy Story, they're lost from Andy. In Monsters Incorporated, they're like kind of lost because they're hiding a human girl in the monster town. They're all almost identical plots.
I almost want to go get you some straws because you are grasping at them, I think.
I'm not saying I don't enjoy them. Like I enjoyed Bug's Life. I enjoyed the first Toy Story.
Coco is incredible.
I actually that was, it might still be for free on Amazon Prime, and I was thinking about watching that.
Oh my god, it's so good.
Yeah,
It's
I've
good.
heard that from you and from Tegan.
Yeah, Danko and I were talking about how much we like Coco, and we talked about. It was funny because we also reminisced like hardcore about how much we love the Goofy movie.
That's different.
What do you mean that's different?
The Goofy movie is different.
It's a road trip movie.
I know, but the Goofy is a character from a different time.
So what does that mean?
I'm saying that I can accept him being sort of one or two dimensional because he's from a different era.
But he's not one-dimensional in that movie. That's the part that we're talking about. That movie has so many layers.
I guess,
and
there's a lot of character development.
There's a lot of character development, and we also were talking about how it was a movie that we saw as a kid that when we see as adults, it has a completely different message to us now.
Yeah.
And it's not just nostalgia glasses why it's so good, and that's how you can tell it's a quality film. Yeah. And I think that the Toy Story and the Pixar movies are the same way. I saw them as kids, and I see them as something different now as an adult. And that includes me going and seeing these Pixar movies now. Like, I loved Incredibles 2. I actually think Incredibles 2 was better than the first Incredibles, just because of the just the character development.
I heard if you go back and watch Incredibles 1 as an adult, the dad's like an asshole.
He's my least favorite character in the whole series. But he's in a midlife crisis in the first one. In the second one, he's kind of an asshole too. Yeah. So I mean, but you know, hey, whatever. I mean, suit his own, whatever the phrase is.
To each his own.
To each his own, whatever, or whatever suits you.
Yeah,
but
that's what you were mixing up.
Yeah, I was mixing the phrases up. But you should really get off of that opinion. It's a bad opinion, I think.
I mean, it's not an opinion. I just objectively don't like those films, but.
That's an opinion.
No, my opinion is what shapes that. I just don't like those films. I just tend to not like animated films in general.
Oh, see, that's...
I just say 3D animated films. I'm just not...
We just never understood that because you're also a huge anime fan.
Yeah, but like 2D animation has a lot more detail in it.
Well, I love the colors in animation, and that's why I prefer to get all my animation stuff on... Well, I almost strictly buy Blu-ray now, because I still actually buy physical media here and there. But animation is something I like to own. It's something I like to digest. I love watching the scenes over and over and over and over again because I just am amazed that someone is literally hand drawing this or animating it. It's just there's just a mastercraft to it that I just fall in love with. So it's like, yeah, and I just recently got Cowboy Bebop on Blu-ray, and it's just amazing how well that show holds up. Dragon Ball, you know, even One Piece. I'm watching that in standard, but even I can appreciate One Piece just for the amount of detail that they put into their fights and the motions that these characters do, and it's incredible.
Yeah, I think One Piece stays hand drawn for a really long time. Like
One Piece has been on for like 20 years.
Really? No, I thought 1999 is when it started. 1998.
Really?
I thought so.
I don't know. Keep talking. I'll look it up.
Yeah, but it stays hand drawn for a pretty long time, and then you can sort of notice where they start using digital techniques to straighten the lines and everything.
Are you sure that One Piece just didn't come out in the States in 1999?
No, the animation.
It's not like a form of.
I think the animation began in 1999, and I think the manga itself might have been 96.
Well, you realize that. If it is 1999, that would be 20 years.
Yeah.
Next year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a 19-year-old franchise. Yeah. So I wasn't really too far off. It said that it was started in... The anime was, yes, like 1999, and the Shonen Jump was 1997. So we'll just round it down and say that it's probably 1998.
Yeah.
Hence 20 years. Okay, Adam, we're going to go into our first topic, and I'm going to segue it because it's a really good segue. Because they just recently announced at the Anime Expo that a live-action Gundam movie is in the works from Legendary Entertainment and Sunrise co-producing it. What are your thoughts on something like that?
Do we need it? No. Is it going to be good? Maybe. Do I want it? Not really.
See, it looks like it's going to be an Americanized version.
Definitely don't want it.
You really don't want to. You don't care. I don't really care one way or the other because in the Gundam series, isn't the world kind of like united, and they're going up into space, and then they're fighting a common enemy. So like, it doesn't strictly need to be Japanese. I don't care
No.
one way or the other.
I think my problem is not that it's being made in the United States. Is that when they tend to Americanize like Japanese anime, they tend to change the designs of the mechs, and I don't like where they go with that shit.
I understand
like
that.
American
That's
mech
fair.
designs are like
that's fair.
dumb.
I understand the logic of that. And here's how I'm going to just kind of like counterpoint it, okay?
Yeah.
Because the most popular version of that over here in the States, unfortunately, isn't the greatest example, but Pacific Rim is kind of the idea of like what Gundams could be. And I think I enjoy the designs of the Pacific Rim monsters and the robots. I think they're kind of Gundam-esque. They're just less mechanic looking. They're more people. They're more
I haven't
human-shaped.
I haven't watched those films because I don't like the designs.
Oh, well, you just need to get over yourself on that. Those are the second one I didn't have any interest in. It just didn't look very good, and I heard the reviews were kind of bleh on it.
Yeah.
I massively enjoy the first Pacific
Yeah, I heard
Rim.
it was a good film. I just don't like the fucking bulbous arm thing. Like, it just looks dumb.
It works. Like, it just does, and you really get a sense for the scale. So there's the but here's how I
guess I just like more angular design.
Okay. No, but here's the other.
I'm the same way with cars too. So like I like more angular design.
No, that's okay. I mean, I understand that. So here's the other aspect I want to throw out to you. I think a good portion might have been why they thought that this would be a good idea. Now, this is me just spitballing here. I could be wrong. I might be, call me crazy. One of the most enjoyable parts of Ready Player One was the Gundam scene.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
And everybody was flipping out about how awesome the Gundam scene was in Ready Player One. That was one of the more iconic scenes that people were like, "Holy shit, it's the Mobile Suit Gundam!"
Yeah.
And it was moving like a Gundam. It would look like a Gundam. I mean, it straight up was a Gundam.
Yeah.
And I thought that was maybe a hint as like maybe people want this. Maybe after something like Ready Player One and people enjoying that.
Yeah.
That I'm not saying that is what made a film get greenlit, or being told that they're gonna work on it. I think that helped massively though, and I was sitting there. Someone told me about this before I was looking into it and said, "Hey, they're coming out with a live Gundam movie." Yes, I'm like, "Oh, that sounds cool, but that seems very strange." And they were like, "Well, why is that strange to you?" I said, "Because the last anime movie that they made was Ghost in the Shell, which bombed and wasn't very well received. So I would understand why a studio would think maybe moving on with another anime film doesn't work."
Yeah.
But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that it was a deterrent, or do you think that what I'm saying is bullshit?
No, I think that there's some animated properties that do make a good transition into live action. And I don't think that Cowboy Bebop is one of them. So.
No, please do not. I do not think that I don't think that would work at all. No. It would seem way too hokey.
Yeah.
It's like Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
I don't think Dragon
Ball will never make One Piece will never make a good live action transition.
You almost got to stick. I mean, Gundam though. I think
it might work.
But it's also kind of concerning to me because you know how long they've been trying to make a Robotech movie and they just can't get that off the ground for some reason. And I just find it odd that Gundam's definitely, I think, more popular than Robotech. Do you believe that, or am I no?
Yeah, we got to think that how many Robotech series are there? There's 2, isn't there?
Yeah, Gundam definitely has had more longevity.
Yeah,
but
I would say that's an indicator that it might be more popular.
I also think that though you should aim for something like Toonami era stuff. I think that works.
Yeah,
and I think what they did with Rurouni Kenshin, the Japanese adapted films, I thought that got 3 sequels, and guess what? They're pretty fun to watch. I enjoyed the hell out of them. Unfortunately, the version I watched didn't have subtitles, but I've seen Rurouni Kenshin.
So you could recognize the characters and you know what was going on?
Yeah, I don't need the language. I have a general idea of what they're saying if they're saying what they did from the show.
Yeah.
And they incorporated it into a really cool style. I think Gundam I honestly think if I showed my mom a picture of a Gundam, I'd say that there might be a 30 to 40% she might know what that is. She might say, oh, that's that Japanese anime robot, because like those are model kits or something that she's seen in like Barnes and Noble or something that I used to buy. And I kind of gauge that as, is an audience ready for Gundam based on that? I know that's a very bad survey.
No, but I kind of understand, like, what's the level of public that know about this property?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I think if I went up to all my friends and they're not anime fans at all, they know Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
They do. I don't think that they would look at Luffy and know he's from One Piece. But if I showed them any Gundam, they'd be like, oh, that's from that Gundam series.
Yeah.
They'd know.
They'd know.
It'd connect. Yeah. And I think the story of Gundam does work for us, does for a plot.
Yeah.
And I think that if you keep it under a relatively okay budget, which I think you could, because I understand that it's big giant mechs, but
there's also some human character development in Gundam.
Yeah, there's human character development. I think that because the world kind of looks like shit, you don't need something super expensive like Ghost in the Shell, where it's very Blade Runner-esque.
Yeah.
Which that shit's expensive. You could film in like a freaking desert,
yeah.
And it would be okay because
Yeah.
the world's been just run dry of its resources, and like war and famine have forced people to go to their own colonies up in space.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm on board for it, especially because Legendary is the ones who did the Godzilla, Americanized Godzilla version that you know that I really do enjoy.
Yeah.
I think them and Sunrise together could work something.
Yeah.
You got to do it right. First trailer is going to be everything, obviously, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, going on to our next topic. Adam, you know how we've talked over the last couple weeks on the show about Star Wars and just what direction it's going in, and a lot of bigotry that has been going on in the community. Very small but very loud group
Yeah.
of morons.
Yeah, the vocal minority.
The vocal minority, which I do believe 100% is the cause. For how big of a franchise Star Wars is, 3% can make a lot of noise.
Yeah.
If it's that low, I do believe it might be a little higher.
I don't think it's over 10% of the fans.
I just take it into consideration of how much of the country is that like that.
Yeah, but how much of the country look at Star Wars and don't say, oh, it's nerd shit?
I don't know. I just kind of think that it...
You know what I mean?
Star Wars is 100% in my mind one of the biggest fan communities of all time. And so I just kind of equate that to how much of the population is like this in America. There's a good chance they know what Star Wars is and what they think about it.
Yeah.
And so we'll just say, like, even if it was 5%, 5% is still enough people to make a loud noise. Like, Rian Johnson, like director of The Last Jedi, is still to this day constantly being harassed and constantly having to defend his film. And it's okay if you don't like the movie. It's okay. That's not, it's just not right to attack people. And, you know, telling people that I hope that your sister gets raped and I hope that you get murdered on the streets, that's not an acceptable way to display your...
distaste for a film.
Yeah, for a movie. A movie, guys.
That's not really an acceptable way to display anything, to be honest.
It's not acceptable in any way with politics, movies, film, anything. It's just not right.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to talk about this quick little story that I was reading about, very sad story that I was looking at. And it was...
Is this about the dude that played Jar Jar Binks?
Yes, this
I did
is
see
about the guy who played Jar Jar Binks. His name is Ahmed Best, and Phantom Menace came out about 19 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of this really sad story about how he was talking about that after the backlash of the Phantom Menace, that Ahmed Best was contemplating committing suicide over the massive amount of hatred. And I think, obviously, this is terrible. Yeah. not a way that someone should have to feel. Like, that's seriously awful. Do you think Ahmed Best had it easier, though, if the Phantom Menace came out today? With the social media?
Oh, fuck yeah. People would have hunted him down.
I think he would have.
Oh, yeah. They would have been sending him death threats and all kinds of shit.
Awful. Like, they were like, I remember trashing on Jar Jar, but my God, like, I remember.
I mean, I'm not going to stop trashing on Jar Jar.
No, Jar Jar is one of the worst characters ever created by anybody in film.
And it's not
his fault.
It's not his fault.
That's what he was told.
Exactly. You got to realize that he's an actor, so he gets a script and he does what the script tells him.
Yeah.
So, especially, have you ever heard of him in any other anything?
No.
Either have I. I'm sure he's had other work.
If anything, he probably just did like motion capture or voices, because I don't
probably
believe
did.
the guy sounds anything like Jar Jar. It's clearly a character.
Yeah.
It's just kind of crazy because he got all this abuse now. And the crazy thing is this was a guy that when social media just wasn't really an issue, it wasn't
was almost driven to suicide by the backlash.
And he was completely CGI'd. Like, and he still got all this shit. Like, whew. It's pretty crazy that this guy was almost driven to suicide. But he posted a really, this link on his Twitter. Not a link, but this picture. And he put, 20 years next year, I faced a media backlash that still affects my career today. I completely believe that.
Yeah, so do I.
This was the place I almost ended my life, as he's looking off over like a bridge. It's still hard to talk about. I survived, and now this little guy is my gift for survival. Would this be a good story for my solo show? Let me know. So apparently he plans to go do his own little, like, kind of, I don't know if it's a strictly him talking about his career or anything like that, but he's sitting there with a picture of his son looking over this bridge. And I was just like, oh man, that's rough. You know?
Yeah.
The fact that, like, it's just bullying.
Yeah.
It's massive bullying, and there's no acceptable reason why someone should be treated like that because of a character they played. No one should be treated like that. And it actually hurts my feelings, and it makes me not want to shit on Jar Jar that much. The character, I'm
still shitting on Jar Jar.
I've never had a problem with the guy. The guy who acted as Jar Jar wasn't, like, terrible. It just was a bad character.
Yeah.
He didn't act it bad. If anything, you don't ever think that there's a guy. I never affiliate a guy behind that character. I just affiliate the character.
Yeah, so I think that's maybe one of the reasons why it almost drove him to suicide, is because it was something that he was dealing with. Like, all he saw was the media backlash against Jar Jar Binks and the fan hatred of Jar Jar Binks, and he's the only person really that, I mean, I'm sure other people knew, but he's the only person who was, like, really knew that, like, I was Jar Jar.
I'm responsible for all this. But he wasn't responsible. But
George Lucas is responsible.
Yeah,
for
George
that
Lucas was responsible for that shit. Let's be real.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's never gonna hear this, but you know, don't feel bad about George Lucas nearly fucking up your life.
You guys, like, just anybody, it's like you just. It's a little bit difficult, obviously, for some people in our situation to say, but it's like you and I, we're not in the situation where we have people constantly berating us, but we have been berated before, and we just don't let things get to us.
I mean, I tend to not care.
I just don't care either, but it's like, I guess when you're in that situation, it's just like people are like, oh, well, why didn't you just shake it off? Oh, he got paid to do it, all that stuff. It's just, people are different. People just need to understand that not everybody has thick skin, or not everybody can just take constant abuse.
Yeah.
And just be okay. It's just not good. And so I just kind of thought that
I also want to say, like, I want to, because I've heard this before, like, where people say that people who don't want to deal with this kind of shit are weak, and I don't believe that at all. Like, when somebody responds to attacks on them, it's not out of weakness. It's because they're not willing to take your shit. Like,
Yeah.
It's not an inability to take your shit. It's an unwillingness to.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a weakness.
Yeah, because I used to have a stance where I always thought that, people who are with like Lucasfilm should just not interact with it, and that
Interact
there should
with
be,
the fan base?
Yeah, and that there should be a policy out.
Yeah.
But actually, like now that I've been seeing how things have been handled, I'm actually kind of changed my stance on it. That I don't think that someone should just be allowed to be berated and just be forced to take it. I think that that's awful and wrong, and I just don't agree with that. So, I mean, I'm glad that obviously Ahmed Best did not commit suicide, and now he has a son, and he just sits there and says, "This is my gift for not doing that." And I think, I'm not sitting here trying to be like GTAS podcast, the anti-suicide awareness podcast, but obviously, if you are struggling with anything like this, that you should reach out to somebody, talk to a good friend. Fuck, if you want, talk to us. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, if you just need someone to talk to somebody and just let somebody know. Like, you just need somebody just to let you know that things are okay and you don't need to do this. And that...
Well, even if things aren't okay, I mean, a lot of these feelings come about for legitimate reasons.
They're also not abnormal.
Yeah, no, it's totally not abnormal. I'd say for most people, you go through this at least once in your life. I'd say if you don't, it's because you haven't experienced struggle.
Yeah, but there are some people who aren't struggling who still struggle, and that's like, what? How can you be struggling? People are just wired differently, and I just want everybody to just be aware that it's just, if you're dealing with cyberbullying or you're dealing with a bully or in any type of way, in young form or adult form, I just believe that things will get better. If you're having problem in school, eventually you'll be out of there. It's just, it is just about persevering and know that you are an important person and you deserve all the best that's coming to you. But you
have to be there to get it.
Yeah, you have to be there to get it. But as I said, just don't do that. So I'm glad about Ahmed Best. I don't know why this one just really, I guess maybe just because I'm a really huge Star Wars fan, and it just really hurt my feelings to think that this now is the problem. What is that noise? Are you hearing that? Weird. We had some weird technical noise going on.
Yeah, that was a little strange.
I don't know what the hell that was. I know.
Wait.
No?
I thought I heard it again.
No. Sorry about that. I was like, what is that? It sounds like someone's it sounded like someone's sucking a lemon through a straw. It sounded awful.
It sounded to me like a weed whacker, but really distant.
Yeah, it was really weird. I'm sorry, everybody.
Or a strimmer if you're in Europe, or a
I don't know what
eater if you're in the South.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, going on from that, geez, that was just so weird. I just couldn't. I'm like, no, I gotta handle that noise. Sorry. Okay, Adam. Going on to our next topic, which is that Child's Play is apparently getting a reboot. It's not confirmed, but there are hints that a possible reboot could be coming. And I wanted to hear what your thoughts on that were.
I don't know. I think I'm going to reserve judgment until I see anything.
Yeah?
Yeah, because
I'll say this. Okay.
I got a love-hate relationship with that film. Because it scared the shit out of me when I was younger. Mm-hmm. And it's legitimately one of the only movies that I've ever found scary. It's one of the maybe 5.
And that is why I
scared
think
the shit out of me.
That is why I think it's perfect for a reboot. And here's how I'm going to do.
But I guess what I'm saying is, can they recapture that magic?
I don't know. Here's my thoughts on this. Okay. So recently, I think a lot of people are seeing that if with it and all these Blumhouse movies, and probably with the success that Halloween is going to have this summer or this October, I think that these studios are starting to see that if we can just make the budget less than like $10 million, and you keep the budget low, and you keep the story straight, that you can have a lot of success with these horror films.
Yeah.
And instead of risking all these like $250 million budgets and might not like even break even, I think doing this, it's like, oh, well, look what it did. I don't think it had a budget more than like $25 million, and on its opening weekend, it made $81 million.
Yeah.
Like, so I think that Child's Play is prime for a reboot. I think you can make it, especially with that creepy ass Annabelle movie that they've been coming off with, that Conjuring spinoff. Like, dolls are still fucking scary, guys.
Yeah.
You ever seen Dead Silence?
Yeah.
Holy shit. I hate ventriloquist dummies. They terrify me. Like, I don't give a shit about, like, puppets. Puppets or whatever. Ventriloquist dummies scare the piss out of me. Dead Silence scares me to death. And Child's Play is my least favorite horror franchise because it scares me so much.
You know why that is?
Why?
Because your eyes and your brain recognize a humanoid shape, but it lacks features for you to identify it as a human being.
I don't know what it is, but
It's like a psychological effect.
I don't know. I mean, I remember I was 4 years old and my dad was sleeping, and you know, I'm like a 4-year-old. I'm like little. I'm like cuddled up with my dad, and he fell asleep with his arm around me on the couch, and Child's Play came on, and there was no way for me to turn it off, and all I could do was close my eyes. But I'm still like curious, and I'm like still poking, and like people are getting stabbed, and I still have those traumatic effects. I remember some of the, like, you know how you're not supposed to really remember your dreams.
Yeah.
I remember some of my dreams from when I was younger because they were so fucking traumatic with Child's Play. So while
I never had dreams about Chucky himself, but I did have a fear of Chucky probably up until I was in like middle school, and I used to have dreams that there was like an alternate version of my mother that was like a plastic version of my mother that was trying to kidnap me from my real mother.
I thought my dream was fucked up.
Yeah, dude, it was fucked. But yeah, like my real mother was like trying to protect me from this plastic version of her, which looked like her but was clearly not her. Like you could tell that she was made out of plastic.
Huh.
It was just fucking weird. I think it was fueled by my experiences with Child's Play.
Child's Play terrified me so much.
It scared the shit out of me.
As a money thing, here's the thing, is Child's Play just hasn't had a lot of success. I mean, every single film they were released was getting diminishing returns, and then eventually they just got to a point where they were releasing straight to DVD.
Yeah.
And I think that you need to wait a little bit. That movie just came out like less than 2 years ago.
That last one?
Yeah, The Cult of Chucky.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that it did okay. Like, people were talking about it for a little bit. But the thing is just, you've been diminished to a straight-to-DVD franchise like Hellraiser. Yeah. And, yeah, I think that there is a spot for Child's Play. And if there was a really good trailer and I was really getting pumped about it, kind of like what It had been doing.
Yeah.
Because I hate clowns. I'm not as paranoid about clowns as some people are. Like, the sight of them freaks people the fuck out.
Yeah, clowns don't bother me at all.
Yeah, they bother me, but they don't freak me out, I guess, is a better way to say it. And now here's the thing. They don't know if the voice of Chucky, Brad Dourif, would be coming back. And to be honest, I know he's iconic as the voice, but if you're going to reboot it, I think you should not have him back. And just start fresh, because when you have that Chucky voice, you got to make Chucky not look like Chucky, but still make him creepy. And you got to not have his voice. It's a creepy voice, and it's amazing for the character. But I think if you're trying to get people on board and say, hey, we're doing this in a whole new light, we're going to take this in a new direction, I think that's what you got to do. And I think that'd be a very unpopular opinion with most, because it's kind of like Freddy Krueger and Robert Englund, how it's just, oh, he's synonymous with the character. Yeah. And
but eventually he's going to die, and he's old now.
Yeah. It's just, But that's with any franchise. I just think that if you're going to reboot the franchise, they tried it with the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, which I thought that the person who played Freddy wasn't a bad choice. I thought the makeup was terrible, and I thought the story was fucking boring as shit. It was bad. I really hated the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, and I thought the trailers for it looked great. And so, yeah, if you're going to try to do reboot for Child's Play, and you want to keep it under a really minimum budget and try a whole new take on it, sure, try it. Why not? I mean, but it's just whether or not any studios are going to be willing to pick it up to distribute it. I just don't know. I think the Child's Play name is kind of soiled at this point. But I think maybe in like 5 years, yeah, sure, why not? I don't see the problem with that. So, Adam, that'll be pretty much with the movie news today. And this is the first time in weeks that we've been able to do both. Because Danko, I didn't do any game news with him. We all know Danko's just not a gamer.
He's not as big. He doesn't play as much as us.
If it shows anything with Danko, it's not an insult on you, Danko, but Danko's main game still is No Man's Sky. If that shows anything with Danko and his ability to dive into a lot of games. He just gets one game, he enjoys it, and he just plays that for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect example of what we were talking about a few weeks ago about how there are just people who have consoles who just only get like 1 or 2 games every once in a while. So we're going to go into our game news, and I'm really excited to announce that the NES Classic is finally back in stores. And I just wanted to see what Adam thought about Nintendo getting it back into stores for people. That face doesn't come up on audio.
Yeah, I don't. Do we need
it? Okay. Do we need it? No. No, we don't need it. But in a way, did we need it? Yes. And how I'm going to say that is because I think Nintendo already kind of lost on the amount of sales that they were going to get with it around the Christmas time that they released. And I think there were people saying, like, what the hell? We want more. We want more. And so on that case, no, I don't think we need it. Did Nintendo need to redeem itself on it? Saying, look, we fucked up. We did not make enough of these.
What about the Super NES Classic? Why? Like, I don't know.
What do you mean about the Super NES Classic?
Are they still selling that in stores?
Yes. Yeah. They're both readily available. And that's the great thing. I bought an NES Classic on its first day. No issue. I went out after work around 6:30. I just decided, hey, I'll take a shot, go to Best Buy. Unfortunately, they were sold out at Best Buy. So I said, well, I'll take one more shot in the dark and I'll go to Target. And Target had 25 of them. So they clearly have pumped them out. And there were about 10 Super Nintendo Classics there too. So now I have both the SNES Classic and the NES Classic. And I'm very happy to have both because I wanted both of them, but I was not going to pay scalper prices for them. And they literally just pumped out the same exact game, and they pretty much did the same packaging. They only made it kind of stupid where they didn't add the second controller like normal.
Why?
I don't know, because they didn't do anything different. They just redid the same thing.
But just had one controller instead of 2.
Well, they didn't have the second controller in the first one. You had to buy the second controller separate in order for it to work for 2 players.
Yeah.
Or you could use like a Wiimote classic controller or something like that. That would work.
Okay.
But you couldn't do it with you could not. That was the other thing. That was the hard part of getting it. You could not find a second controller anywhere. Now, I personally did not see a second controller, but I have read online that there are people that have found them and that certain stores are limiting them to only 1 or 2. And that's it. You can't buy like all 40 or all 20 that you get.
Yeah.
So when I go to Target next, I'm going to look for a controller and see if I can get one. Because I refuse to pay for a super expensive, like $40 for a $10 piece of plastic. I just refuse. So I think that it's a good job on Nintendo to do that. Mm-hmm. Because it restores its faith. And then I think also part of it shows that Nintendo is partially listening to what fans want. And I just, yeah, I kind of agree. Did it need to come back? Would I have been satisfied? I would have been kind of disappointed I didn't get one. But at the same time, they said they're going to be selling both this and the Super Nintendo Classic all the way until next holiday. So I think after this year, they're going to stop producing them. And I think that's fair because I think at that point, if you haven't gotten one by then, you probably just didn't want one, or you just had the worst luck ever because they are readily available and scalper prices have skyrocketed downward trajectory.
So they ground rocketed.
Yeah, they pulled a. Did you see that?
Don't say Challenger.
No, I wasn't trying to say Challenger. Wow, you went there? I wasn't trying to say Challenger, anybody. No, there was a Japanese unmanned missile that they put like $4 billion or something. They put a shitload of money into.
Yeah.
And they had a bunch of Japanese citizens watching and being super excited for this unmanned rocket to go up into space. It was going to be like the first unmanned rocket or something like that. And it goes up and everyone's like, yay, yay, yay. And seriously, like 2 seconds, it just goes, and then it just falls down and just blows up. Luckily, nobody, I think, was hurt. Yeah. But that's the kind of thing I was going for.
Yeah.
That just in that long period of time, let's say for the last year, that representation of that rocket was the NES Classic Scalpers. So fuck you, Scalpers, for your inability to now like.
I should tell you, I went to a NASA's visitor center when I was on vacation.
Yeah.
And one of the patches they were selling was a Challenger patch. Ooh. In the gift shop.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was like, this is kind of in poor taste.
Now, was Challenger the only rocket?
No, that was part of a program, so it might not have been that specific incident.
Hope not.
But like, I was still like, really?
Like, it didn't say like remembering.
No.
It just was it's just a Challenger patch.
Yeah, it just said Challenger. Like, I think that those are all like there was the Apollo program, there's a Challenger program. Like they all had different.
Yeah, I get it.
So I think that it probably wasn't for that specific flight,
yeah,
but it's
please.
still, I'm like,
That's all you think of, unfortunately.
Yeah, when you say Challenger and it's a NASA patch, you're like,
Oh, God. Challenger, jeez.
Yeah.
I remember, like, anytime rockets would, like, go anywhere, like, my mom would just randomly bring up Challenger. Did I ever tell you about the Challenger? I'm like, what? Yes, you have. Why do you keep bringing up the Challenger? Because that teacher, and it was so sad. I'm like...
It was the 9/11 of the 80s.
It really, like, kind of was. Like, people were...
Yeah.
Oh, man. Didn't they show, like, a video feed of the classroom? Of the kids watching the teacher go up into space?
I don't know.
I believe they had, like, a feed... Like, they were showing footage of the children watching it, and then you just see them being like, yay, yay, and then just... Boom. Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Oh. Challenger patch. Okay, Adam, going on to our next game topic is also at the Anime Expo. Arc System Works decided to go a little more in depth talking about their Killa Kill game coming out. Now,
I don't know anything about this.
Oh, really? You didn't know that they're coming out with one?
No. I knew that Arc System Works was working on this game, but I know nothing about the game at all.
Oh, okay. So apparently it is kind of it's obviously in the style of Killa Kill and how Arc System Works usually does their gameplay
their fighting games.
Except it is not 2D. It is a 3D game.
Was Dragon Ball Fighters and Guilty Gear.
No, it's not in that 3D. Like it's actually
you
moving
mean like a 3D action game?
Yes, it's a 3D action fighting game where you're moving around. You're not just moving left and right. You're going kind of all over the place.
Ooh, the last time Arc System Works did this, it was not good.
What did they do before?
Guilty Gear Overture on the 360.
Ooh, I did not see that. Okay, so here's the thing. They released a little bit of a trailer, so I can show you that after and see what your thoughts were on it. But so it's kind of it looks a lot less crazy version of if you took a combination of Guilty Gear and took like Xenoverse.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm getting, but it's less like flying and looking weird in the sky. Like it's all relatively kept low to the ground.
Yeah.
And whenever you're doing your attack, it goes into that classic, Arc System Works, like close up, super detailed, and you do your attack and all that. And so they only really focused on the two main characters, I forget their names. Damn it.
Don't look at me.
I know you don't
seen
want
this series.
I know. Well, it's the main two girls. The main girl with the scissors. I mean, I've seen the series, but I just can't figure out the fucking names. And then the main bad girl. They're just fighting. And it looks really good. It looks gorgeous. They were splicing in between scenes from the anime and scenes from the game, and I couldn't tell the difference. They looked really good. The backgrounds is only whenever I could tell that it was like
the game.
So apparently the writer Kazuki Nakashima, who did the Killa Kill story, and it's being overseen by Studio Trigger, they're going to be working on a brand new story because the original series only lasted 24 episodes, and it was designed that way. It wasn't designed to be like this massive thing. And I'm a huge fan of, even though I'm sorry I can't remember the names, but I am a really big fan of Killa Kill.
Yeah.
I think the style was over the top, and a lot of people are like, oh, it's just so overly sexualized and fan service. I'm like, yeah, but that's it addresses it, and it knows how ridiculous it is. That's kind of why I can get past it, and the action is super fun and enjoyable. So I really like the whole entire thing. Since Adam doesn't really know much about it, I can't really go much into it.
I mean, I can say though that with Arc System Works' recent performance, I'd say that you probably don't have anything to be worried about.
No, because Arc System Works has just been doing Blaze Blue, Guilty Gear, and Dragon Ball FighterZ, which are probably, if not top 5, top 10 on the system fighting-wise.
They're like 3 of the best fighting games, period, in history.
Yeah. So I'm not really concerned about how well the Kill la Kill happens. It's just this 3D style is very odd for me, especially because I didn't play Guilty Gear Overture.
Yeah, don't bother.
Is it that bad?
It's just not fun.
Okay.
See, it's like, can you imagine Dynasty Warriors, but with like even more structure?
Okay, from the gameplay, Kill la Kill did not look like this.
Okay.
From what Adam is describing.
That's what Guilty Gear Overture was like if you could imagine Guilty Gear, but there's literally like one base and another base, and you go to that base and take it over, and then that's the end of the level. It's not good.
This is just a straight fighting game.
Yeah.
It isn't like that. But I do like the idea of a new story to go along with it, like whether it's going to be a continuation of the franchise or a prequel or something that happens in between this. I don't know, but I'm curious.
Let me put you this way: there's a reason that Guilty Gear Overture never came to the PlayStation 3.
Because they just wanted to keep it to the Xbox so that no one would remember it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where bad Japanese games hide, is on the Xbox.
There are a few. There are a few.
What?
Lost Odyssey.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that there isn't good games, but
Phantasy
I'm saying
Star.
that that's where bad Japanese games hide.
Oh.
Is on the 360.
Got it.
Because
I
nobody's
understand.
fucking bought them.
Yeah, okay. I understand where you're going with that now.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I'm like, there are some good Japanese games on the 360. Okay, Adam, going on to the next item of the day. Hey, do you remember whenever we were talking about Dying Light during our E3 audio-only exclusive podcast?
Yeah.
And do you remember we were talking about what's going on with Dead Island? Is that actually still in development, or what's going on with that? Well, Deep Silver, the developers of Dead Island, confirmed that Dead Island 2 is still in the works. And they apparently released a trailer to kind of say, hey, they're still alive. And it just went on a beach, and you're seeing like you see a woman sitting in a lounge chair, and then it starts panning up, and her head's gone, and everything behind her is just completely destroyed and bloody, and people are like smacking zombies in the face with like sticks with hammers on them or saws or whatever. What do you think about Dead Island 2?
I first have to go through my thoughts on Dead Island 1.
Okay.
Which was an extremely formulaic game where you go from one area, you find some survivors, you do the same like 7 fucking go grab me this thing quest, and then you move on to the next area and do the exact same fucking thing.
Yeah, it was like Dead Rising, except not fun.
Yeah. And
glitchy.
Yeah, it was
All
glitchy.
I remember is
God,
glitching.
glitchy as fuck.
And I got mine like 2 months after the game came out, and I couldn't fucking like shit's falling into the ground.
But I did have fun with Dead Island.
Yeah,
Mostly because I got to play as a Chinese lady, and you could like fucking big boot people in the face with a high heel. But
you can do that in shit. What's the game we're Dying Light? You can do that in Dying Light.
Yeah. Well, because they're like almost the same engine.
It is. I thought that they were saying that they took Dead Island 2 and turned it into Dying Light.
That's what originally happened. Yeah.
That's so insane.
So
it's been so long since Dead Island. I just don't know why they just. Well,
they did that second game, Riptide.
Yeah, but it wasn't like a second game. It was like an expansion game, but enough that they could say, "Hey, don't just download it, buy it." Like it wasn't a 2. I believe it was like half the campaign story length of the first game. So it was like half a game. But I thought I remember Riptide doing a little bit better, like review-wise, but sale-wise, I think people were so turned off from Dead Island 1, and I just think that Dead Island is kind of a dead IP to a lot of people, and who is sitting there like, man, we really want Dead Island. You can't get Mega Man Legends 3, but you're getting Dead Island 2 that nobody fucking was asking for. What?
Yeah.
How about where's like Portal 3 or Half-Life 3 or any game. I'm not saying that Valve is the ones making this game, but any sequel. But Dead Island 2 is the one we're fucking getting?
Yeah,
really?
No, I agree with you.
That's so stupid.
There's so many other. I mean, here's the thing: Techland and Deep Silver are not. They don't own any of those franchises, so they own Dead Island. So they kind of got to milk what they have.
It's more an estate in general.
You can't go to your neighbor's farm and squeeze their cow's tits.
Yeah, what?
You have to squeeze.
I heard you. I'm not asking you to repeat it. I'm more saying like, why would you say that? What?
Well, I'm just trying to make like a ridiculous analogy.
It was a ridiculous analogy.
Yeah, but,
I get it. I understand.
You know what I'm saying?
I know.
Techland has to work with what they have, and what they have is Dying Light and Dead Island, and they're already working on a Dying Light 2.
So why not do Dead Island 2?
Yeah, I mean, even though they're almost the
When's it going to be Dead Light?
Dead Light.
Or Dying Island?
Dying Island 2.
Dying Island 2. Just mesh them together. Dead Island 2, I will not be purchasing you. Unless you're apparently the greatest fucking game since Half-Life 2.
I'm just tired of zombie games.
You're not fucking telling me. I'm excited for Dying Light 2, but I've kind of pulled myself back and said Dying Light might be the only zombie game I'm probably going to be getting in the next few whiles, because
like the zombie video game genre kind of died.
Yeah.
After the PS1.
No, it had its rejuvenation in its what are you talking about, man? It had its regeneration in the 360 days, like hardcore. Like everybody was trying to do a zombie game. That's when Dying Light came out, and that's when Dead Island came out, because Black Ops Zombies came out. And then everybody was trying to do zombies all over the place. Left 4 Dead, which is great. But then they did like Left 4 Dead 2.
Yeah, I forgot Left 4 Dead.
You gotta ride. No, the 360 days, like those games left Resident Evil in the dust. And Resident Evil was like, you know what? We're just gonna take our time and do what we normally do, and that's why I think Resident Evil decided to kind of get rid of the zombies for a while and go with like the
parasites.
Yeah, the parasites, because I think they wanted to kind of differ themselves, even though the parasite kind of came in Resident Evil 4 and kind of took it back to it was kind of zombie games were kind of budding, but they weren't like massive. 360 I thought was the heyday of the zombie game, to be honest, if you're gonna ask me. But no, I'm not excited for Dead Island.
Yeah, I would agree with you. That's probably where it died, because it was just oversaturated.
Yeah, it was everywhere. It was everywhere. And it was to an annoying degree, to the point where I was like, man, you're just putting any game with a zombie on it and it'll sell. And then it got to a point where it just was getting a stale format. And it's like that when they did like the Guitar Hero and the music games. Like, sure, it was a fad and everybody wanted it, but you pumped out so much that it got people...
Holy fuck. How many Guitar Hero games were there in one generation? Like during the PS2?
PS2 and all the way to the 360. because Guitar Hero came out on the Xbox One, but
Wasn't there 5 Guitar Hero games that came out just on the PS2?
There were 5. No, there were 2 PS2 Guitar Heroes. Yes.
There was the 80s one.
Okay, but that was also a late entry.
So there's like 5 on the PS2, and then there was like 5 more after that.
I think there's 3, max 4 on the... Yeah, I believe there's 4 because there's Aerosmith. And then... Oh, nope. You're right. Okay, Adam is right. Congratulations, because there's Beatles. If you count Beatles Rock Band and Rock Band and all that, then there's... But if you're going to say Guitar Hero, I'm going to say that there's probably only about 4 or 5. I'd say. Because I don't know if Smash Hits came out on the... whatever. But yeah, then
on the PS2.
But then there was 2 on the 360 as well, 3, 4, 5, and then Metallica, Green Day, Aerosmith, Van Halen. Yeah, there's almost about 8 or 9 just on there, not including Rock Band and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's just a craze that game developers are gonna like. Oh well, we can just do lazy designs and we'll just throw it out there and people will buy it. Well, people got sick of it, and now zombie games really needed to stick out in order to succeed. Adam, going on to our last topic of the day, which is apparently that Nintendo is going to be actually releasing new Amiibo on the way for the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which would include stuff like Ice Climbers, Pichu, Snake, Ridley, Pokemon Trainer. Not sure how they would do that one, but Daisy ? And the Inklings, which they already have a Daisy and they already have Inkling figures, but I wanted to see what your take on this, and do you think...
I'm getting that Snake day one, boy.
Oh, I know you will be. But do you think the Amiibo craze is done?
Yeah.
I think so, too. I love Amiibo. I love my Amiibo.
I think that there's still a place for them. But I think, like, the people that bought them thinking that they were going to be collector's items...
Yeah.
Those people are done.
Yeah, they're
because
done.
they've realized that nobody's going to pay what they want them to pay for it.
No. And my problem...
Nintendo set that, what is it, $12.99 price? They set it there so that you couldn't profit off of it by buying it and
pretty
trying to
much
resell it.
Yeah,
because nobody's going to pay more than that.
Yeah. So here's the thing. You know me. Ever since we started this show, way back in 3 years ago, 4 years ago, it's been a fucking long time. But this show, we didn't because the craze was kind of dying down. We don't really go into it a lot. I think I've mentioned it a couple times, but I have all but 2 Amiibo. I just
have the characters that I like.
Adam wants the characters. I bought every single one day one as quickly as I could, not for collectors, but not for...
Like, he's not reselling.
No, I'm not reselling them. I just like them, and I want to have them as collector's pieces. And guess what? They look fucking sick. At the bottom of my Super Nintendo display, I think there's a picture of it on our Twitter page.
His shit is exactly like when you beat Super Smash Bros. And you have all that table with the trophies.
Yeah.
It's what his setup is like.
It looks like that, and it's fucking dope. I love it. And so I love my Amiibo, and when everybody looks at them, they're like, do you have all of them? I'm like, I'm only missing 2. I just need to shut the fuck up and just buy the last 2. It's just I haven't seen them in stores, and I really don't want to pay like any more than I have to get them, but I might just do it to do it. Yeah, I'm happy that they're going to be completing the Smash Brothers line. It is a little odd to me, not in the fact that they're going to be releasing these characters, but you really see that they slowed down the Amiibo train for, like, they used to pump out Amiibo for every game they could because they knew that they would sell. And my issue was that the Amiibo...
They don't actually do much in most of the games.
No, and that's my biggest issue, is that one of the cool things was that, they're the collector's items that do stuff, but the one thing that I wasn't happy about is how they were being utilized. Yeah. They worked good for Smash Brothers as they became your own little personal avatar creator. You could transfer your Mii and stuff to other systems. You could put them on there and train them up. Like, I like that idea. But then they just were like, oh, we're going to make the Animal Crossing game, and that's only way you can get that character in there. And then they turned into Skylanders. And it got kind of annoying. Like,
they also didn't stay consistent. Like, they had Amiibos and they had Amiibo cards.
Yeah, then they had Amiibo cards for certain aspects of the Animal Crossing Happy Home Designer thing. And I'm just like, that wasn't cool, because then you just were turning it into these cool, nifty figures into Skylanders where you were crippling people. Oh, perfect example. When it pissed everybody off about the Samus ones. How you needed them to unlock things that should have been included with the fucking...
Hard mode was locked behind an amiibo,
That's bullshit. And I think that pissed off a lot of people. I think that Samus one was kind of the
straw that broke the camel's back.
Kind of. Because you didn't see people flipping out about Amiibo anymore. And then they announced the Dark Souls... What's that guy? Solaire. Yeah, they announced him and people bought him up later, and then they said that they delayed Dark Souls, and they don't even know if it's going to be coming yet. So I don't know if that Amiibo is going to be coming at all. Because they haven't released... Like, what are they going to release Dark Souls like 2 years after it's been released? They just don't know if the Switch can do it.
Can handle the game.
I don't know. They can't. They delayed it for indefinitely for right now. They haven't put a date on it, I don't believe. So, yeah, I'm happy that they're going to get Ice Climbers, and obviously Snakes would be cool. And I mean, as I said, I'm curious how they're going to do Pokemon Trainer, if they're just going to release 3 separate Pokemon, or if they're going to do a 4-pack with all the trainer himself, because you can play as now any Pokemon in the Pokemon Trainer's Rolodex of the 3. Yeah. You can be all 3 of them for the whole match if you want. So I'm thinking that what they'd probably do is do a 3-pack of them. That's what I would think. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, that would make sense.
It definitely would make the most sense. And I don't know. I don't know how... Amiibo probably are just still pretty profitable, but if you go to any section of a store, their Amiibo selection is just either full of figures nobody wants, or it's barren because it's being really condensed.
Yeah.
And I think people are like, man, the Skylander figure craze has died. That was another craze that, going back to our topic of just another craze that was just blown to death and just run dry.
Well, yeah, because... Skylanders started doing it, and then you had Disney with the Disney Infinity. Is that what
and then they did Infinity. Then they did Lego.
Yeah, Lego Dimensions. Like they just, it was never that interesting to begin with. I should say that, and I think that the reason that Skylanders caught on is because it was Spyro, and because it was an appealing gameplay format for kids, and I think that it's something that Disney Infinity and I mean, I haven't played Lego Dimensions or heard anything about it, but I just assume that they couldn't get that formula going.
Lego just didn't seem to work that great, and then it's just like, well, I'm gonna buy all these figures, and then they're gonna cancel the game in like a year, because that's what they did with Lego Dimensions. They canceled that after a while and stopped putting out packs, and then Infinity stopped after like 2 or 3 years of it, and it's just like, ugh. At least that's why I like the Amiibo a little more, because they're not tied down to a certain game necessarily, because they do just look cool and they're classic characters. And they can
work with anything.
Yeah, they can work, but I just wish that they would work more shit into them.
Yeah, you could slap Link on Ace Combat Legacy Plus on the 3DS to unlock a special Link-themed plane. It's not a fucking Zelda game, but it works anyways.
Yeah. And that's the stuff I liked with it. Mm-hmm. I liked that cool little customizable stuff. Same thing with Mario Kart, and you could get all these costumes for all these different characters.
And I think that's what happened with Skylanders, is that people started to realize that all their shit is locked down to this one game. Mm-hmm. And it's, if you want to get rid of this game or you get bored of this game, all this shit is useless.
Yeah, it's just clutter.
Yep.
So yeah,
Amiibo doesn't have that problem.
Yeah, it doesn't have that much of a problem. It's, they're more like, oh, okay, I can't use it anymore.
Figures of long-time recognizable characters. It's not...
Yeah, exactly.
Look at the designs in Skylanders and then look at the designs of the Amiibo.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to have on your shelf, bro?
Yeah, exactly. I think that Amiibo are almost more designed towards man-child like us than kids.
Probably.
So, all right, Adam, that is the last topic of the day. So, Adam, do your thing that you usually have to do on the
Oh my God, it's been a week off. Do I remember how to do it? Yes, I do. All right. If you want to find us, go to www.facebook.com/GTAS podcast, or on Twitter at www.twitter.com/GTAS podcast. We are also on Google Play, iTunes, and Stitcher, and those links are in the video description below.
Yes, they are.
And if you're already listening to us on an audio format, then you already know.
Yeah, that, and if you're listening to us, put us a review up on iTunes. I'd always really appreciate that. Or subscribe to our YouTube page.
I think the last time that we were on here, we told you to put that we suck, but then give us 5 stars.
Yeah, do that.
Do that. Go ahead.
Do it. These guys suck. 5 stars.
Yeah.
I don't care. But I think that's it.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you again for listening to this episode of the GTAS podcast. Until next time, don't get captured, and farewell.